Welcome back to the GTX. I'm doing an update on. We've got. I worked a little bit on the frame. My brother's car had a pretty good stance going, and I know the back wasn't stock height. So I didn't want this to be jacked up too high in the back. So I made risers. These are about an eighth of an inch, maybe. I don't want to go too high. I figure eighth of an inch in the scale would be high enough. You can see them right here. It's just square tubing that I took. And I can always, if I feel this is too high, I can always take a sanding stick and sand a little off, make them shorter. I just figured I'll start with an eighth and go from there. The front wheels, I forgot about the bead in the front. There's no front bead here, like there is back here. It's like, oops, I screwed that up now, didn't I? So in fact, the wheel won't even stay in there. It fits perfect, but there's no bead in it. And I'm looking at it thinking, boy, this don't look right. And that's when I was looking at the back wheel and realized I don't have no bead around the front. So yeah, I put these wheels back into a 3D builder from Microsoft, and I put a bead around the front here. And I'm going to have to reprint the front wheels. Which, I don't know, maybe I'll do a video on that, I don't know. But anyway, so the front wheels will have to be reprinted, but that's really not that big of a deal. So that's a little bit on the stance of the car. The engine, I haven't done anything to. Wheels, the exhaust, I was talking to my brother, and he said he ran a system, a setup, kind of like I had. So at the end of the headers, well, I'm going to use these. I'm going to use these here. Nope, I had that right to begin with. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these mufflers, and I'm going to put my own pipe on each end, because he said he had thrush on his. And if you guys remember the thrush muffler that had just had a short outlet and then a long inlet with a flange on it that you bolted straight up to the header, kind of like the cherry bombs used to bolt up, and that's what we're going to recreate. But I need these mufflers, so these will be the thrush, and then we'll run our own pipe. Hopefully I have tubing about the diameter I need, and we'll mate it up to the header here, and then we'll have a setup like he had on his. And then this carburetor I screwed up because I got this Protec, but it's a Dominator, and it's like, he didn't have a Dominator. I don't know what I was thinking. He had the old school double pumper. So I found one in my junk box. This is a Holley, a double pumper. And then I found, he had the small air cleaner. I found one that we can put on here, and that we'll put on top of this and run it like he had his. So, oh, there we go. Hopefully you can kind of see that. So we won't be using this denominator. I use it someplace else. It won't go to waste. But yeah, we'll run that. Now this is the mold for the intake. Last night I took it off the table, and there it is. And what we're going to do today, and the whole reason for this video, is to cast the intake. So we're using the same company. We're using their kit that makes the amazing mold putty. This is the amazing resin or something like that. Amazing casting resin. It's made by the same company, which is Aluminite. And we'll be using this resin. This is a white resin. 2-part. You mix equal amounts, part A, part B. Pretty easy peasy here. You stir it up, pour it in there, and when it dries it'll be white. So that's pretty easy peasy. You see here I got 2 cups here, A and B. I wrote on the bottom so I don't, make sure I use the same cup all the time with the same part. This is what we're going to be pouring it in and pouring it into the mold. But before we start, I want to put down a dog pad, because no matter how neat I try to be, I end up spilling it everywhere. B, A, B, mixing cup, mold, stick. There we go. Okay, now we're ready. So if you get any on the dog pad, it's not a big deal. Okay, so we have our mold, and this is why we put the flat spot on the bottom, so it doesn't flop over when we're pouring our resin. Just makes your mold a little stable. We don't need a whole lot of resin, so I'm going to do, I could probably do 2.5. So what I'm going to do is take my Sharpie, just so I can frickin' see what I'm doing here. I'm going to mark off 2.5. This is a 5. That's what I used when I casted the engine block and transmission. I'll put this right here. Here we go. So now I'm going to pour resin up to those 2 lines. Then we're going to pour them in here together and mix it and pour it into there. So we take A and we pour it in there up to the line. Thereabouts. You don't have to be exact. Okay, so there's A. We take part B, put it in the part B cup. Yeah, that's close enough. We take our mixing cup here, pour it in there. Excuse my hand. Here, let's do it this way so my hand's not in the way. Pour it in there. And I'll take a paper towel when I'm done here and wipe out these cups. Pour this in there. And I don't know how long you have. You have enough time to pour it in here, mix it up, and pour it in here, and not have to rush yourself. You want to make sure that your resin is thoroughly mixed, though. It kind of turns like a milky color. Can you see that there? That color there, kind of a milky, like a thinned down milk, kind of milky. And when it's thoroughly mixed, it goes clear again. See how that's clear? Completely clear now again. Then you want to slowly, if I can do this with my left hand, you want to slowly pour it into your mold. And if you get a little bit on the outside, so what? And that's it. That's simple. See that? Now if you get any air bubbles, you can take a toothpick. If you pour it slow, you shouldn't get any air bubbles, but sometimes I screw up and I get an air bubble. So you can take a toothpick and kind of push that air bubble out to the top. I don't care if I get an air bubble on the bottom side because it gets glued to the block. But you can push it out of the resin. Just push it up over to the side, get that air out. Because as I said, you have enough time. There we go. That you don't have to hurry up and freak out and try to rush getting your resin poured in there. You have time to work with it. Not a whole lot of time, but you got enough to work with it. See any air bubbles you want to get out, that's good enough. And if you want to, you can pour a little bit in there again if you want to, but I think we got enough. Yeah, we got enough resin in there. And I can feel this cup starting to get warm. So it's starting to harden up. So we're just going to leave it alone. And let this harden up, then it'll just fall right out of the cup. Part A, part B, well, I'll use this rag. We're going to wipe out so we can reuse it again. We can go to cast something else. I don't do a whole lot of casting, but I do like having these kits on my shelf because like this, they're kind of handy to have when you want to just make a quick copy of a small part. As I said in my last video, if you want to make bigger parts, I wouldn't recommend using this mold putty. The resin's fine, but I wouldn't recommend using the mold putty. But for a little crap like this, that mold putty is handy to have. You can see how it's starting to turn pure white now, and it's real hot. So this should start pretty soon too. And we want to wipe the opening of the bottles off, because this part B builds up a crust up here around the threads, and it's almost impossible to get the lid off. So you always want to make sure you wipe right around the threads here, make sure they're nice and clean. You can use a paper towel, napkin, whatever you want to use. This is an old rag I use. It's all messed up, and I don't care if it gets any worse. So, but clean off the threads, get them all squeaky clean. There we go. Alright, now we just sit here and wait till this turns white, and then we can pop it out of there and have ourselves an intake that we can modify and get it look like a Mopar intake, and we'll finally have our torquer. Alrighty, welcome back, and it's been about 10 minutes, and you can see it's turned white in the mold. What you do is just pull on the mold like this, kind of open it up, just like so, and pull your part out, and there you go. There's our soon-to-be torquer. And as I said before, we'll hog out here and here and get this looking like a Mopar manifold. And yeah, now that we've got this mold made, we'll forever have that manifold, and we'll ever have a torquer-like intake, and it'll work out pretty good. I'm going to wait a little bit more though, because it's hard, but I can tell by the way it looks, it's not fully cured yet. So I'm not going to be grinding on. I'm going to give it like another hour, then I'll screw with it, but that's for another video. Alright guys, if you have any questions, just give me a shout, but this is all pretty easy peasy stuff. Can't get much simpler than this amazing mold stuff. It really is a good system, and as I said, if you're just looking to mold just itty bitty parts every now and again, this is I think it's a good deal, and it takes some getting used to working with this putty, but once you get a feel for the putty, then you can make some quick and easy little parts that you'll have that you can use over and over again, and not have to rob a kit of parts. So alright guys, that's it. Take care. We'll see you.